My name is Ashley Ishmael. We're really excited to be here to tell you about our journey. I was serving as the lead project manager on this effort and was involved in the requirements gathering, as well as working with the change management side of things as well, making sure we are rolling out this tool effectively. I have my colleague Krishna here with me.
Try to bump it up to the next slide.
Hi. How are you guys doing today? My name is. Can you hear me? Is it better? No? Sure.
Yeah, they'll fix it.
Is it good?
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. All right. My name is Krishna Mullangi. I'm the Director of Architecture at CME. Heavily involved with collaboration tools at CME Group. Google Workspace is one of those items, right? You know, it's a highly collaborative application that we need to work with all of our employees, consultants, your businesses, customers, prospects, etc., like that. Very excited to just kind of talk to you guys about our journey and kind of like answer any questions that you guys may have towards our journey, and then help you guys out anywhere possible. I'll have Derrick kind of go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Derrick Nadonga. I am the Global Head of Solutions Engineering for Google Workspace at Eviden. My role in their journey was essentially pre-sales and post-sales guidance. So Eviden is involved from the requirements gathering stage to the implementation phase, as well as after the fact. So helping customers adopt the product, making sure that they are following along with best practices as they go through their journey, and giving them bits and pieces of what to do next. We can go ahead here. Thank you. Okay, so for today, we are trying to cover off CME's own journey to Google Workspace, why they actually did it, what was the project vision, what was the compelling event that made them choose to go Google Workspace. We are also trying to cover what were the main core tenets of the project itself, what are the main success criteria that they had as they moved over to Google Workspace, and how they actually got there. Ashley had mentioned change management. That's obviously a very big part of a Google Workspace implementation, and we want to walk through you guys a little bit through that today. So who is Eviden? The tagline that we've been using lately is that we are a 55,000 person, $5 billion startup. We are the result of a divesting company, Atos. So Atos is a global GSI that is really heavy. They have a heavy presence in EMEA, as well as APAC and LATAM, not so much in North America, and Eviden is looking to change that. So Eviden itself is made up of a bunch of different legacy companies. I came from a company called Mavenwave, which has over a dozen years in the Google Cloud ecosystem, very highly specialized partner. We were about 1,000-ish people before we got acquired. Now we are part of a larger group, fully focused on digital transformation. My part of the business is digital transformation. We also do lots of big data, data security, moving people to the cloud, so on and so forth.
So we were just talking about CME, like, who are we? Like, what does CME does? I'm not sure, like, if everyone knows exactly what it is. We are like a leading derivative marketplace. We enable clients to trade futures, cash, OTC products, and this kind of like empowers them to kind of like manage their own risk and also capture capabilities that are out there, opportunities and stuff like that. So we also pretty like a wide range of global market products also as well for the trading. So that's on a high level on what we do for Google, for CME Group. Here's a little bit of history. So we started back at 1848, and there are so many different milestones that we have reached in between. One of the key things for this presentation I would like to highlight is 2021, we signed a 10-year partnership with Google Cloud Products. So that's all we are going to talk about here, like how we kind of like started using Google Cloud Products, and then how it came into Workspace and etc. like that. Just transferring into like what is our program mission. Collaboration is going to be the key. Like if we are unable to collaborate with people, communicate with people, kind of like let them discuss about the details back to you, back and forth, it's never going to run. The business is never going to run, right? That's going to be the key. So our vision was like when we are trying to move all of our applications and stuff into Google Cloud, we also need the integration with our collaboration tools like Google Workspace. like how do we do it efficiently, etc. like that. It's something we'll go a little bit more further. But that's a high level on like what I would like to kind of cover today.
Okay, so when companies make the decision to go Google Workspace, there's a number of different reasons. Krishna covered off the why, but as you take that why and try to map that out to the actual project vision, there's many different things that you can do and focus on. So Workspace in itself is a very large solution. People usually don't do everything all at once. And so trying to understand the priority of what is it that you want to focus on during your initial journey to Google Workspace is pretty important. So for CME, one of the very first things that they wanted to prioritize was a browser-based workspace. And for many companies, this is one thing that a lot of people focus on. Oh man, I really like Outlook and I'm moving to Gmail. But one of the bigger shifts, I would say, is that moving from a legacy thick application-based mindset into a browser-based mindset, because the browser then becomes your portal to everything. It becomes your portal to Gmail, to all of your file collaboration, your chat. A lot of people don't really focus on that part of it. And so trying to understand, how do I then take this thing that is just historically used for internet access and make it my main productivity application? So how do I manage 7,000 browsers across the organization from an environment where you didn't manage any browsers at all? How do I push policies out? How do I control access? What is context-aware access and what does that mean for Chrome? These are decisions that we started pretty early on, but CME knowing that they wanted to focus on removing the legacy mindset of having to push applications through something like SCCM, make sure all the patches were updated, moving to the browser lifted from an administrative perspective a lot of the pain points that they had. So after we kind of got the access out of the way, we started thinking about, okay, what's next? Drive was something that CME wanted to get in front of quite a bit. With the GCP projects that were going on, as well as just general Drive usage within the organization, one of the things that they saw was that Drive was being very quickly adopted within the platform, well before they even made the decision to go Google Workspace. So one of the things that they wanted to do was gather their arms around that and make sure that the data that they have within Drive was well within their boundaries, right? CME is a financial services company. As you can imagine, there's a lot of governance that needs to be put in place for things like that. So making sure that we had a Drive first mentality of, okay, let's make sure that our DLP is up to date and make sure that we are trying to understand the flow of data across the organization in general and how people access it was really important. And then, there was that whole Gmail thing after the fact of, you've got this organization that has been on Outlook since the beginning, basically. And that is a huge mind shift of people to get from something like Outlook over to Gmail. So in the three kind of core tenets, that's kind of how we looked at things. And when we are trying to define how do we actually approach an implementation like this, there's a very busy slide that I'll make sure to quiz every single person on all of the items on here after my session's done. But it's not really an instant plug and play thing. A lot of people come into a workspace migration thinking, oh, I use Gmail at home, I use Docs for my kid's school, I'm going to just put it in there and go. And there's a lot of things that you need to take into consideration before you actually do that. So the first several months of the project, the project ran from November to June. And between November and I would say March or April, no one was actually on the platform other than the project team. Those first few months were all just discussing how to make a plan to get there in a way that is not user disruptive. It's got to be secure. We got to do it in a very programmatic fashion to make sure that we are uncovering all the skeletons in the closet. At the time that we were implementing Google Workspace, CME was actually going through a big data governance initiative as well. So this was really an opportunity for us to take what was becoming a very mature data governance program and mapping it out directly into the Google Workspace implementation. Outside of the tech is easy. I mean, I know that I had that really busy slide that had a lot of the different components with everything, but we normally see a Google Workspace project be a people project and not a tech project. Computers don't really fight back like people do. When you tell a computer that you're going to Google, they won't say anything to you. But when you make the announcement that your company's going Google, you'll probably get about 40% of the people being like, that's not for me. 40% of the organization being like, awesome, I'm in, let's do this. I want to be the first person on the platform. And 20% are the people that don't really look at email anyway. So to them, it's not that big of a deal. But there's a huge portion of people. This is one of the few projects that you can do as an organization that will touch every single member and employee of your organization. So it's really important to understand how a change to Google Workspace is going to affect Bob in marketing or Jim in finance. There's many different things that you'll do to try to understand, if I take someone's Excel away, what does that mean for their sheets? What are the things that they care about in moving from Excel to Sheets? What are the different formulas that they use? So we would try to understand not only the tool impacts that are changed from person to person, but also the sentiment of it. There's going to be a large portion of people that just, again, you'll never be able to convince them that it's worth moving to Google Workspace. But trying to understand the value that they can still have, you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, and trying to emphasize that part of it to them as well was a really big focus on our OCM program. And once we kind of understood all the change impacts, once we understood here are the champions that we're going to have, here are the detractors that we're going to have, and here are the people that kind of sit in between, that allowed us to create and implement a change program that was highly customized for CME to address those blockers, address those adoption pain points, and all of that. So I'm going to hand it over to Ashley to actually talk through how we did the change management at the Workspace program.
Thanks, Derrick. So as Derrick mentioned, change management was really the key here to this project. The technical piece, we were ready to go, right? That everyone had figured out. We had Evident there to support us, and then our own in-house team that partnered together to make that piece really successful. The harder part was the change management and thinking about that as an organization and how we could make this happen in about 7 months. So we went from ideation all the way to our global go live in a very short period of time. When they originally told the project team that was the timeline, we weren't quite sure that that was possible, if I'm being honest. You know, we've never done this scale of a project before, so it was a really big undertaking. But in our partnership, I think we were able to figure out what was really important, what are the requirements that we actually have that aren't just user preference, what's the technical need, and how can we work together with the organization to make sure that we are providing the right communication and training. So the biggest part of that was sponsorship. We started with our CIO as our executive sponsor, and that was really key in making sure that we had someone near the top that was supporting this change overall. So when we had, you know, some of the people, those 40% that Derrick mentioned, pushing back, we had the support of our CIO saying, this change is coming, let's all get on board. And that kind of fed into our executive steering committee. So our steering committee was more about, okay, how are we technically getting from one place to the other? What are our big roadblocks? How could we move those roadblocks when we're thinking about our requirements? Are there things that we can do from a top-down level to make this run more smoothly? So that was more on the technical side. But then there was the executive change committee, which was something we hadn't really done before at CME Group. And this was taking leaders from across the organization in all the different divisions, and we made them part of our project team. This was a different approach. You know, a lot of times when we're making these big changes, technology is just pushing it onto the organization. We tried to make this more of an effort that we are in this together. We are all moving in the same direction. Let's make this successful together instead of against each other. So that executive change committee really served a big role there in telling us when, you know, something wasn't working so smoothly, or, hey, we have this specific use case over here. How are we going to help us think about different ways to solve that problem? So having their buy-in was really, really crucial. They helped us by providing our Google Guides. So we also had the project team, of course, but then we had our Google Guides who were provided by that executive change committee. This was a group of people, about 10% of the organization. They were nominated by our leaders to be our early adopters. So they were the ones that came in a few weeks before and started using the tool and were there on day one supporting their colleagues, making sure they understood what changes were coming. So I'll get into a little bit about how we kind of phased it out, but having these different layers of sponsorship within the organization were absolutely key in making everyone buy into this idea that we're in this together. So getting to go live, we took a three-phased approach. As Derrick said, you know, the project team cut over in mid-March. So that was about 60 users. So we did a cutover and we said, okay, technically what's going on? Can we do this? And it went quite smoothly, actually. You know, we were able to get the project team on board. These were a lot of people that were excited about it. You know, they were working on it. They knew why we were doing this. That one was easy. Then we went to our early adopters go live. This was that group of Google Guides that I mentioned. So that was closer to about 400 users for us. And there was a lot of communication and training kind of leading up to that. But we quietly in between that turned on Drive for everybody. You know, we'd had Drive for about 800 users before, but then we were able to get that turned on for everybody and start getting people familiar with the idea, get them excited about using this new tool, collaborating online together. And then we also leveraged our executive assistants in this second phase with starting their training process. All of that led up to our global go live, which happened in June. That was a big bang approach. We did the entire rest of the organization, cut them over in a single weekend. So technically, it was very, very impressive, but there was a lot of training and communication that went into that. So we started with the train the trainer sessions. So we took our help desk, our customer support group. We did multiple training sessions with them. They split between our core IT group and our early adopters group in terms of cutting over. And then we did weekly executive assistant training sessions leading up to our global go live. Lots of live sessions for our Google Guides because our biggest concern was we were going to get to day one and the help desk was going to be overloaded with calls. No one was going to know how to get to their email. No one was going to know where their calendar was. So having those Google Guides out there, identifiable, ready to go was super important. It really helped ease that burden on our help desk on day one. And they were comfortable with the tool already, right? Like so much of Workspace is just getting in it and starting to use it, and then it's not so bad. And actually, it's really, really cool and effective. And we've been able to do so many more interesting things with our collaboration now that we're on Google Workspace. Things are being communicated differently. We were a very email-heavy organization prior to our cutover. I think since we've moved, we've been able to do so much of that collaboration in real time, in documents, in chat, in spaces, all these different ways of communicating instead of just building up somebody's inbox and maybe they'll get to it later. So today, we're really pushing our Google first mindset. We have a lot of in-house tools. We don't have a firm date on when we're pulling away from any of those tools, but trying to slowly just push out, okay, if you could use a Google tool first, do it. Let's find tips and tricks to make this more seamless for you. Let's try to make this the path of least resistance. We also are doing a lot of ongoing training and support. So offering tips and tricks classes, real-time labs. We have some different events with our employee engagement groups. We're offering up different ways for them to collaborate quickly and easily. We have an always-on tech bar. So Tuesday through Thursday, they're available to answer questions in our community space so that users are able to get real-time help. And then we also have a really nice feedback loop between our end users and Google. So we have a survey out there that any end user can submit. Someone responds directly to those users with that survey if they have questions or concerns. When there are issues that maybe aren't easily solvable, we have an open line of communication with Google, and we're constantly providing that feedback to see if there's enhancements or different ways that we can think about solving user problems. So those are the different ways that we're collaborating today. I'm going to pass it over to Krishna, who's going to talk about what's coming next.
Yeah, so before talking about the next, so far you guys heard about like how users are trying to adapt to that thing, right? So now we need to talk about like how the other applications that we have at CME Group is going to adopt this change. So two pieces of it, like one is human being, one is the technology, like the other applications. So we took it in a two-step phased approach. The first and foremost thing is, unless and until the employees get committed themselves to use the applications, it doesn't matter what you wrap around it, what you integrate with it, it's never gonna fly. So you heard about like how the teams worked in trying to get that engagement within the employee group. I'm just going to try to kind of highlight a few things on like how we started looking into it on the technology side and how to kind of get that engagement with the people. If I, some of the few things I can, the core thing I could tell you is email is like the core foundation of any company. So we are now actually changing the foundation without making the building fall. So that's going to be the key thing, right? How do we do it? We got to make it in a piece by piece basis. If we just take the whole foundation and do it, it's not going to help you guys in any ways. And like once you put that foundation in, how do you connect that foundation back to the remaining floors? How do you get the connectivity flowing? And how does the core services, like, if you look at your home, like all your core services are coming from the ground up, right? How do we do all of those things? So these are some of the things that were continuously going in our mind as we were trying to implement it. The first and foremost thing that we started to look into is like making sure we provide the enough technological ways in trying to access that email, calendar, chat, and everything in one single piece, and without losing the productivity. Plus, not only on their laptops, again, linking them together. And we all know that there is a slight difference on how things work on your mobile versus your laptop, right? So on your browser sessions. And people, we might probably think like most of the people already know Gmail, everybody knows how to use it, but that's absolutely incorrect. And I came to that to my knowledge only when we were trying to kind of like sit and talk to the users, asking them questions. So there are so many things that are more foundational that they have built in the existing platform that we now have to kind of figure out to move it to Google, right? So the first and foremost thing is understanding the people, how they are using it. And now, when you're looking at the people, again, I can categorize them in many different categories. They're like technology people. They can just go with anything. Okay, you tell them to use a browser, they can do it. Like when you talk about the business, there are two different categories of people in the business side as well. Some people like who actually kind of talk to like your customers, prospects, and everything, they see it differently. And the other people who are actually supporting the higher management, like admin people, etc., they see it differently. So we need to kind of find a way to kind of like put the technology in front of them that is consistently works across all, in a consistent way across for all of these groups. So that was going to be the key thing, right? So we took the first step of making the technology available and having them access in all different possible ways. And then now we are trying to look into like how do we kind of connect those applications back into Gmail. So that's our next step where we are. So some of the things, enhance user experience. The term itself kind of tells you that I have it, but do I really have it in the way I want it, right? So we started kind of collecting some feedback from various users, like, what do you guys want to see? What kind of features you are looking for? So that we can better work with Google or kind of come up with ways to kind of build custom apps to kind of be able to provide them the feature that they are looking for, right? So that's going to be the key next step for us. The first phase is done. Now we are in the second step of trying to understand what the customers are looking for from us and then try to kind of implement that. So that's going to be our more customer user experience stuff. The second thing, it's the most important thing, is app sheet. We just started to evaluate the app sheets. Why app sheets? Is because I think one good feature that I like about in the Google side is it doesn't matter whether you do it on the workspace, whether you do it on your app sheet, whether you do it on your app scripts, or your GCP cloud transformation applications that you build on the GCP platform. They all could be connected in some way or fashion. It's just like defining the right scopes, right security, and then getting them all lined up properly, then you can make things happen properly, right? So if you want to just get rid of some of the things that you built 25 years ago to what's there in Google, the first thing is mindset. You got to change your mindset on how you see things. So the first and foremost that we're working with the business users are like, don't think about like how you have done it today. Think about what you want. So tell us like what you want, and we'll try to provide you the right way to kind of make it happen within the tools that are available. So one typical example I always kind of give is like between a gasoline car and EV car. Both just the same job, taking you from one place to another place. Just because you are used to putting gasoline on the other car, do you want to put gasoline on this car? It's not going to work, right? So you got to do something different. That is a change in mindset. If that mindset doesn't come along with how we kind of push the technology, it's never going to work. The people are going to be trying to put the gas into it and break it, correct? So that's where the app sheet comes into play, where we are trying to put the technology in front of them by modifying some of the processes that they have built in various different applications into one single area and connect all your data behind the scenes. See, I think that's going to be the biggest portion of it, right? So you can use the various Google products to kind of connect them, look at them, analyze them, and all of those things. If we are not able to connect them, there's no analysis in place. You could have seen many companies like using 15 different analytical tools. Why? It's all because like data is sitting in like 15 places. So that's a one good thing here. Like, you know, it's like we connect all the data together in one single place and then help the possibility of using the analytic platform that Google provides you to kind of get into the next step. So the next step here after the app sheets is going to be more on the Duet AI. I know that's one of the hot topic here at Google Next this week. It's like Google Duet AI. What can it do? It's something that we're going to be looking at into more detail. Can it really help us? Can it really kind of help people to kind of be more productive than where they are today? Can it make it more professional? You know, so all of those things are something that we're going to be trying to evaluate along with in the Google labs that we are signed up for, and see where we can take our next steps into. And again, Duet AI is a vast space, and my concentration today is only on the workspace side. I'm not going to touch anything about the GCP side of it, but on the workspace side, it's pretty clear that they have a big roadmap. You can start with the initial stage of like, you know, help me write. I think that's an important thing. Like, you know, I don't know how many people have spent hours and hours to kind of figure out, is this the right way to tell somebody what I'm expecting them to hear, right? You know, hope it kind of gives us all this information that we are looking for. So again, like we are in the initial stages of like trying these things out. We are not really implemented anything more other than that.